So it's my proud privilege now to talk about the next AIS Endowment Award, the AIS Dr. L.P. Agarwal Endowment Award. Dr. Professor Lalit Prakash Agarwal drafted the National Program for Prevention of Visual Impairment and Control of Blindness, now called National Program for Control of Blindness in India in 1976, first of its kind in the world. He founded Dr. Rajendra Prasad Center for Ophthalmic Services Sciences, the Apex Government Ophthalmological Center of India. His contributions to modern Indian ophthalmology were so profound that we may not be mistaken by calling him the father of modern Indian ophthalmology. So this award, the AIS Dr. L.P. Agarwal Endowment Lecture 2024, is awarded to Professor Dr. Mahipal S. Sachdev. He is the Chairman and Medical Director of Center for Sight, a renowned ophthalmic surgeon recognized for his expertise in the area of cataract, refractive and corneal surgery, both nationally and internationally. He is honored with the Padma Shri Award on January 26, 2007. He was the President of All India Ophthalmological Society in 2020. I welcome Dr. Mahipal sir to please give his AIS Dr. L.P. Agarwal Endowment Lecture 2024 with the lecture title Evolution of Cataract Surgery. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. In the first instance, I'll wish to thank the All India Ophthalmological Society, the Scientific Committee of AIOS for conferring on me the Professor Dr. L.P. Agarwal Oration Award. As has been pointed out by Amit, we are products of RP Center, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and he was the founder chief. He only conceptualized the super specialization within ophthalmology, and when we joined as residents way back in 1982, there were already 12 super specializations in ophthalmology within RP Center, and it was a 300-bedded hospital, and today maybe those 300 beds were not what one looks at, but it was one of its kind that was there. An astute academician and a teacher rose to become the Dean and Director of All India Institute of Medical Sciences, but he is the person who had the vision and the leadership qualities to think of putting India on the global map for ophthalmology. Obviously, we had a large backlog of cataract blindness and blindness in India. The first survey was done by the Ministry of Health along with RP Center, and he was the person who planned the National Program for Control of Blindness. It was part of the 20-point program of the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. He has written several books, a prolific writer, but has been an inspiration to most of us, a strict disciplinarian and who would come at 8 in the morning and would be there right till the evening, somebody who has established super specialization in Indian ophthalmology. Bow down to him for his contributions to Indian ophthalmology. Well, friends, something close to my heart, what we have seen evolve from the early days is cataract surgery. Cataract surgery, even today, India has the largest number of cataract blind. We have great, I would say that Indian ophthalmology has done the maximum number of cataract surgeries in the minimum number of time with the best best results. I have two doyens here from Chitrakoot and Prajna from Arvind Madurai, who have really excelled in giving quality care at the minimalistic prices but with exceptional results. And cataract surgery has been close to my heart apart from refractive surgery. Obviously, I was a cornea surgeon, but apart from keratoconus, I don't do much now. But what is important is that one needs to study the past if you want to define the future, because you have to see the roots from where you went, from where you were and where you are today. So cataract has been described way back in 2250 BC. That is the first time in Babylon, ancient Babylon, that the cataract was referred to. Eye diseases and treatment have also been recorded by the ancient Egyptians. But in ancient India, there is a full chapter on eyes, which is the Uttara Tantra, written by the old people who were there, Samhita, and this is 500 BC. Looking at ancient Greek, then 300 BC, then ancient Rome. So this has always been a mystery, but obviously the life expectancy was not that high. So maybe cataract was an issue, but the issue has kept on increasing as we have gone. But when you look at the Renaissance and you look at the direct ophthalmoscope that came in, this is where the ophthalmology actually came forward. Now, in the history, the 5th century BC, couching was what was described. I have never seen a couching of a cataract being done, but I had to look from the Google and try to get out a video, and I'll just show you. It looks pretty, well, you can say for yourself whatever it is, but at that particular time, it was like a curtain that was there, and you needed to get it out. Then came the extracapsular cataract surgery, then intracapsular cataract surgery, like 67. A very dangerous technique was brought in by Kelman, which had significant number of people who were detractors. But then you can see that how this dangerous technique has evolved today and has become the gold standard. So that is how things evolve. And then you had the microincision cataract surgery. This is the first, as I told you, 2250 Babylon. If a physician operated on a man with a severe wound, that's what we picked up from Google, or makes a severe wound upon a man with a bronze lancet and saves the man's life, or he opens an abscess. Cataract at that particular time was considered to be an abscess within the eye. So you open up the abscess, let it drain, and then that is what it was. So that person was given award of silver shekels, and that is what it is. Now this is how couching has been. You can pick up these pictures. This is the earliest form of cataract surgery, introduced in about 206 BC. This is Shushruta. These are the instruments. You can see that they pretty much resemble, even if you look here, this looks pretty much like the diamond knife that we use nowadays. And these are the lancets, and then you could see that these are the kind of instruments that you had in Shushruta's time. So this is what I picked up. This is Hans Koch, and this is how the couching was done. So you can see there, this is a needle. What we do nowadays, go into the pars plana, and similarly this is how one is going, and you just displaced or dislocated the lens into the vitreous, and that is what the couching was. And then if the zonules were strong enough, then you had to actually go all around it and then make it displayed. So this was an art at this particular time, and this is maybe a present day or few years ago, and this is somewhere in Africa. I have never seen this. Maybe any one of you might have seen it, and this is, you can see actually a couching procedure which is being done, and you can see the ecstasy and the happiness of this old gentleman to be able to count fingers again after a hypermature cataract. So this is where we were, and this is how we have evolved. So you need to be mindful of where we have gone. Then in 1747 we looked at ECC. Again he proved, Jacques Daviel in 1747 in Paris, he proved that this is not something which is related. It is basically an opacification of the crystalline, which is lens. And this again you can see is the instruments which were used by Daviel for the technique of cataract extraction, which was there. Then came in from ECC, because it used to cause a lot of inflammatory reaction at that particular time. There wasn't adequate cortical cleanup, there wasn't a microscope, etc., etc. And then came on the ICC. For 100 years, ICC was the method of choice that was there. I still remember when the cryo came to RP Center first, it was a revolution. And we were supposed to show a cataract surgery when we were doing our post-graduation examination, and I knew that we would operate without gloves at that particular time, and my finger stuck onto the cryo in front of the examiner. And I was in extreme pain, but you still had to do it. So this is basically where we have moved. You needed a large enough incision in this. And often what happened was that is why they said ke motiya pak jaye, so you had to wait for the cataract to mature, then the zonules became weak. But if you had the problem of so these were pre-pressed sutures, you can see you would dry the lens, and then you would have a cryoprobe, you let it put there, and then along with the lens coming out, you all in a significant, maybe 10-15% of the cases, specifically in immature cataracts, you would have the undesirable vitreous that would come out. So this is from where we went on. This is way back. Dr. Ramanjit was my senior resident. This is me, and this is what we used to do in the camp surgeries. Bare hands, I told you, no gloves. Owning a Bynamag at that particular time was a royalty. And I still remember my friend, father, Professor Munis Raza, got me this Bynamag from Japan, Shin Nippon. I think it cost me 2,000 rupees at that particular time. And this was a rarity that you had at that time. So this is from where we have evolved. From doing camp surgeries with intracapsular, go after 4 weeks, do suture removal and give everybody a +10 glass. And that would take care of this blindness process that was there. Then on came the modern cataract surgery, as I would say, which Charles Kilman introduced the method of phacoemulsification. I still remember even in India when we were few people who introduced phacoemulsification, there was a lot of criticism because the machines were poorer, the fluidic control was not there, corneas were getting bad, wound burns, etc., there, which was there. And similarly, simultaneously at that particular time, a second thing was happening in cataract surgery, and that was the artificial lens that was being developed. Again, it was an intern who told Sir Harold Ridley that you have taken out the lens, why have you not replaced it by another lens? And then he saw a perspex glass from a windshield of a pilot having been sitting into the eye of a war hero, that he felt that he could do that. Obviously, his lens power calculation was not there, and the patient ended up with a huge refractive surprise. But then that started the whole thing. So this was Sir Harold Ridley, late Sir Harold Ridley, who implanted in 1950. And this is the second part. One is the way the cataract is removed, and now we have the third part, which Ramdev ji is talking about, Drishti, that you have the Drishti eye drops or whatever. But there is a lot of research that is going on that we may not be able to need refractive cataract surgery because we will have some eye drops which could take care of the aging process and not have a cataract. So IOL designs have gone on, and they have really improved from time, and anterior chamber, iris clip, then you went to posterior chamber, C loop, J loop. We have seen the entire evolution of what it is. And the plate haptic, C loop, modified, etc. Every doctor had a new design of IOL, and he named it after that. We have seen glass IOLs of Momose from Japan, who was very popular here, and these are the various materials that have. But I would say that my intersecting path in cataract surgery was basically when I went to Georgetown University, 89-90. Well, this has got nothing to do with the cataract surgery, but this is the first prototype of the confocal microscope that we worked on, 89-90, and dry eye. Micrography at that time, which today is being done left, right, and center, was developed, the infrared micrography at that particular time. Stepped out of my comfort zone, I would say, and went on to do phacoemulsification, which I still feel is the gold standard for cataract surgery, and have helped propagate this modern surgery, life surgeries around the world. Today, yes, I have to accept that I don't know the procedure called as SICS, because SICS came after phacoemulsification, because phacoemulsification was the procedure, and for reasons of expense, etc., and machine not being available, small incision, SICS came. But for us, irrespective of the grade of cataract, you can see a normal cataract and you can see a rock hard cataract, where we are all, you can see we can split it, and this is the phacoemulsification, which I feel is the fluidic balance, etc. has. And from a power based, the first machine of phacoemulsification that we used could not do a vacuum more than 100 millimeters of mercury. That was universal one. The maximum vacuum that you could do, and we used to do zero flow, zero vacuum for the trenching. So that's something very different from what it was. But no matter what the grade is, we look at it as what it is. And as phaco was a big jump, I would say we were not afraid, and from phaco we went on to the femtolaser assisted cataract surgery. Yes, again I would say price is a barrier, but if price goes away, this is something which is artificial intelligence is coming in now as to how much the nucleotomy has to be done, the incisions, etc., that needs to be done, cyclotorsion rotation, compensation, toric marking, capsular marking, getting a good part on the, this is a posterior polar cataract. You can visualize the posterior polar cataract. You can get the nucleotomy done above that so that you don't have any problem of loss. This is getting a great nuclear disassembly in patients of rock hard cataracts. You can see that air bubble coming and you can see the color of the nucleus. This is black cataract, and you can go ahead and help with the femto. This is again, you can see when you look at here the image, you have a subluxated cataract in this particular case. Obviously in cataract surgery you had a problem, you are just aligning the posterior and the anterior capsule. You can do customization of the capsulotomy, you can increase the size, because later once you put this, you can see here this is a subluxation, there is vitreous helping the posterior segment coming in. You are doing a vitrectomy, tricot. You are just removing the vitreous so that the capsulotomy has been done with the femtolaser despite vitreous. Putting an endocapsular ring in this particular case, and once you have an endocapsular ring which is there, you do an irrigation aspiration in this case. So you are combining posterior segment vitrectomy, decompression, I would say, putting in a three-piece lens, getting excellent results in such cases. Today I would say for me, femtocataract, 80 to 90% of my patients go in for femtocataract, and we are really believing in this technology that is there. So I would say in my lifetime, which starting ophthalmology January of 1982 to where we are today, we have come a long way. Obviously I didn't see couching, nor did I do couching, but intracap was my first surgery within 3 months of my residency starting. Intracap, extracap, phaco, flax, and that is where we are. And apart from that, the IOLs, as I told you, have adapted today. Any patient above 1 diopter of astigmatism, you can actually look for true emetropia, and LRI is there, or you can do a toric lens, and you are getting good presbyopia correcting lenses. And I feel tomorrow presbyopia will be a thing of the past. Presbyopic lens exchange, as things improve, is going to be the future which is there. So this is where we are moving from a restorative surgery. It has become a refractive surgery, and that is the fineness of the surgery and the cataract procedure that we have, which has evolved over time to give perfect vision to humanity and to get them out of the curse of blindness. So thank you very much, friends, for that. I think cataract surgery, like any other good thing that you do in life, is a marathon. It's not a sprint, and you have to constantly keep on evolving and keep on adding new to the armamentarium. Thank you very much for your kind this thing. And William Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his type plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. Thank you very much once again for your kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mahipal.